welcome back to my channel. We are about 10 days out from the release of Dune Part 2. I have been so excited for this film since seeing the first one in the cinema and absolutely falling in love with the cinematography. To properly prepare, we are rereading the book to get right in the zone, and I'm excited about it because from reading the book before, I know Part 2 is going to be so action-packed. I just started it this morning. I'm only about like 20 pages in, but it's a lot easier the second time round because, and also having seen the film a couple times since, you don't have to spend as much energy trying to understand the world because you already sort of get it. That's the video. We're going to be reading this. They're not on Arrakis yet, so it's like, I really enjoy it when he gets to the Fremen and everything, so obviously that's like the main bit of the book and the film, so that makes sense for that to be my favourite bit. But anyway, yeah, let's get reading. I've been pretty awful at filming. Honestly, just been a bit down is what it is. We have made it to 300 pages. As far as I can remember, this is also the spot where the first film ends. I'm fairly sure. I might be wrong. But they've met the Fremen, he's met Shani. Exciting times. The first 200 pages is definitely the hardest, but the second read is also way easier because I know who the characters are. And I understand when they're talking about the politics and the different power plays, like I know what they're talking about. I'm not having to think about what they're talking about. So I'm quite enjoying it. I've been a little slow, but just purely through distraction rather than actually not enjoying it, if that makes sense. The other interesting thing I found out was when he wrote it, he intended for Paul not to be like a hero. Like he didn't want it to be him to be the good guy. I can't think how to explain it, but he basically, yeah, he didn't want everyone to like Paul, but you just naturally do, and I think that's fascinating. But it's intrigued me because I saw that was why he wrote the sequel, so now I'm kind of intrigued about what happens in the sequel. Loving it. It's definitely a little bit thicker for the first film than the second film, which makes sense because I remember that there's a ton of action in this bit, so I'm gonna go for a wander and read some of this in a coffee shop because it's good to get outside and gentle exercise to lift our moods. Let's go. I forgot how good the second part of the book is, like how much it just hooks you in after all the like build up, and the tension is just so, it's such a great book at building that tension, building and building and building, and then not disappointing. I'm now extremely hooked. We've got under 100 pages, which is good because I want to watch part 2 tonight. So I'm gonna get reading. I'm on my lunch break. I'm so excited. I'm also really intrigued if they're gonna include the wife and sons of the guy that Paul killed, that he's now responsible for, in the films. Because I feel like it is quite a plot point, especially when you get to like his sister and she takes charge of his sister. But yeah, I'm just intrigued to see how they handle that, and how we'll get to see the siege. Is it siege? That's how I'm gonna say it. I'm so intrigued how they're gonna bring it to screen, because the first half is so good. Like, it's just stunning to watch, and there's so many like intricacies, and it's like the book is descriptive but also leaves them so much room to play with it. Ooh. Also, how are they gonna show the passage of time? Because there's like 3 years. Anyway, all these questions. Tell you what, I'm not ready for the Floyd Rover, I'm just gonna say Austin Butler gladiator scenes. That's gonna be intense. Yeah, anyway, enough yapping. I'm reading. We have finished the book. There was less of the action than I remembered, I think, but it's kind of nice because it leaves you to picture the action yourself. It's more subtle. Things I thought they missed in the first film, I think it would have been interesting to have the dinner, and then they didn't really have them suspecting Jessica, which will be intriguing for part 2. It will just be interesting to see if they just ignore that completely or if they kind of acknowledge it in the second one. What else? I have no idea how they're gonna do Aaliyah. Is it Aaliyah or Aliyah? I'm gonna say Aaliyah, Paul's sister, because she's supposed to be a toddler that talks like an adult and has that adult aura. So I'm just like, I'm trying not to imagine it because I just have no idea how they can do that, so I want to just go and accept how they've done it. I feel like they can't just cut her out, surely, because they included the fact that Jessica was pregnant. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they do the whole spice water, him seeing the visions, like that whole thing. The way they handle the relationship with Chani is going to be interesting. And then I'm excited to just see the action of the Fremen taking back Arrakis. Like, I'm really excited for that, and also to see if they show the South when Jessica and Chani are there, and like what they picture that, because it doesn't, it kind of alludes to the fact that actually there's green oases and things. So it'll be really interesting to see how they do that against the sands of Arrakis. I'm actually really excited to go and watch this. I feel prepared. That's kind of some of my thoughts, what I'm hoping for. Interested to see what they do. The only thing left to do is go and see it. Okay, there's people walking around everywhere. This is not so fun. Literally just came out. Some thoughts, like slightly disappointed because I loved the first one and I'm not really sure if I liked that one. Like, I definitely didn't love it the same level. They definitely switched things up. They didn't have the whole time jump. Aaliyah wasn't born by the end of it, so she remained a fetus, which I kind of see why they did that, because it did make it easier for them to film and deal with her character. But then, spoilers by the way, they like changed the whole relationship with Chani. Like, she goes off on her own at the end, and then the whole book, Paul's trying to stop them going and massacring, going on like a universe-wide massacre, and he just goes for it. So yeah, he didn't have a kid. I'm intrigued.
It felt like it lost the essence of the book, but they definitely made him a questionable character. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on what happens in the sequel book, because I don't know if they've tried to incorporate that and bring Herbert's intention of like, you're not meant to like Paul into the film. But I'm also really intrigued, like, anyone that only watches the film and hasn't read the book, I feel like you're gonna be really confused at some bits. I don't know, it was weird. This is just my instant thoughts, so I'm gonna have a think on it, look up the sequel, try and make sense of it. Part of me liked that, like, Chani stuck to her values, but it just also was weird, like, the way they handled the Fremen. So I'm a bit confused, because I do love the book. Like, the book just has such subtleties and is very thorough, and it felt like you could maybe pick holes in the film. But I will say, Austin Butler as Fade Raffer, I think that's how they said it, killed it. Like, unrecognisable, incredible performance, creepy, but he's meant to be. So yeah, that was huge. And I did like how they, because I was wondering, obviously Princess Irulan is only actually in the last bit of the book, but she has her like intros throughout the book, and I really like how they incorporated her and the Emperor, so you actually saw Florence Pugh and all those scenes. I thought that was a really good addition. I'm just, yeah, confused about the rest of the changes, basically. I'm gonna head home, go to sleep, think about it, and I'll get back to you when I've had time to think.
I have some final thoughts. I read a summary of Dune Messiah because I don't have it, and I'm trying to pause in buying books, and also I just don't want to wait that long. Here's my thing with the part 2 film. It was like they took the depth away from characters, and that's what I didn't enjoy about it, if that makes sense. Like, if in the book Chani understands deeper, and like, I don't know how to describe it, and the relationship between Chani and Paul is so much deeper in the book, and also just like, she understands his duty versus what he wants to do. And it literally ends with Jessica saying, well, you know, at the minute we're seen as concubines, but we'll go down in history as the wives. And yet the way the film ended, it was like, not that. It creates depth to Chani's character to see beyond like what she would like the situation to be, and also acknowledging what duty calls Paul to do, but how he brings her into that, and like how much he loves her in order to keep her, if that makes sense. And I think there may be also a key element of that in that they have a son in the books that then dies, and that grief, and also the experience of having a child together, like that's another layer to the bond. And then I also have realised I felt the same about the Fremen. Like, the film puts division among the Fremen, like the young people laughing at the fact that the older ones believe in this guy who's going to come and, you know, show them the way, as they keep saying. But in the book they're so united, and they are so clever. Like, they're so advanced, and they're all working towards the goal of creating life on Arrakis and making it a nice place to be. And you just completely lose that in the film. And I think it's a real shame, because they actually in the book come across as more like more human than the Harkonnens, whereas in the film it kind of only focuses on their brutality, and with the division and disagreements between them, like, you don't get that unity and that community and the doing everything for the good of the tribe and working towards a future that they won't see but their grandchildren will have a better life because of. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but it's still a great film and people seem to love it, and I feel like that's, you know, the unpopular opinion. You know, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just sad that it felt like some essence of the book was lost. And also the fact that I know a lot of people are like, oh, the first part was so slow, and that was the main complaint, and it feels like they went so far the opposite way to not have that, and it kind of was too much because you lost the subtleties and it was more in your face. And I think part of the beauty in the first film was that it was subtle. I do find it interesting making Jessica the villain, kind of. I don't think that's far off, but it was an interesting take. And I did enjoy having the Emperor and Princess Irulan throughout, and having now read what happens in the sequel, and the fact that actually they go and massacre people in his name even though he doesn't want it to happen. It kind of makes more sense how it ended like that, and also the fact that the princess has more of a role in the sequel makes sense that she would be involved with the Bene Gesserit in the Part 2 film. There were some bits they did it really well, they did it really nice. Overall, because Part 1 was so good and I just enjoyed it so much, and then the book, like, especially on that second read, I just found a new appreciation for it. I think partly my expectations were slightly too high, but a lot of people are enjoying it and I'm happy for them. If you ever get around to reading the book, it is tough the first time round because you're trying to keep track of who everyone is, but there's a real beauty to it as well. It's a classic for a reason. That is my experience of Dune. I hope you enjoyed. Comment below if you've seen it and what you think. Let me know if you haven't read the book, if the film made sense and you really enjoyed it, because I feel like that might be the dream scenario in this case. I'm intrigued to hear the opinion from someone that hasn't read the book, basically. So if that's you, comment below, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. I will see you on the flip side.